Lisa had always been the responsible one in the family. While her friends were out having fun on weekends, she was working 2 jobs to help pay for college. While other 23-year-olds were still figuring out their lives, she was already climbing the ladder at a marketing firm downtown. But today felt different. Today, everything seemed to fall apart at once. It started with the phone call from Mom. Grandma Betty was in the hospital again, and the whole family was supposed to visit her that evening. It was her 85th birthday, and she had been looking forward to seeing everyone together for weeks. "Where's your brother?" Mom had asked during the call. "I've been trying to reach him all morning." Lisa knew exactly where Kevin was. He was locked up in his room, probably playing video games or watching movies, completely unaware of what was happening around him. This had become his routine over the past 6 months. Wake up late, grab some food, disappear into his room, and ignore everything else. At first, the family thought it was just a phase. Kevin had always been the quiet type, preferring books and computers over social gatherings. But lately it had gotten worse. Much worse. He missed family dinners. He skipped important phone calls. Last month, he didn't even show up for their cousin's wedding, despite promising he would be there. The excuses kept coming. "I forgot. I wasn't feeling well. Something came up." Lisa tried to be understanding. Everyone goes through tough times, she told herself. Maybe he just needed space. But today was different. Today was about Grandma Betty, and she wasn't going to let him mess this up too. She had rushed home from work early, cutting short an important meeting with potential clients. The presentation she had been preparing for weeks would have to wait. Family came first, and she hoped Kevin understood that too. Walking up the stairs to his room, Lisa could hear the sound of his television through the door. Some action movie was playing, loud enough that the neighbors could probably hear it. She knocked once, no answer. She knocked again, harder this time. "Kevin, we need to talk." Still nothing. The movie kept playing, explosions and car chases filling the silence between her words. Lisa felt her patience wearing thin. She had been carrying the weight of family responsibilities for too long. Every time something important came up, she was the one who handled it. Every time someone needed help, she was the one who showed up. And every time Kevin was nowhere to be found, she thought about all the times she had covered for him. When Dad needed help moving furniture, she was there while Kevin was busy. When Mom needed someone to drive her to doctor appointments, Lisa rearranged her work schedule. When bills needed to be split, she quietly paid Kevin's share without saying anything. The door was still closed. The movie was still playing, and somewhere across town, Grandma Betty was waiting in a hospital bed, hoping to see her grandson on her birthday. Lisa tried the door handle. It wasn't locked. She pushed the door open and stepped inside. Kevin was lying on his bed, still in the same clothes he had worn yesterday, staring at the screen. Empty pizza boxes and soda cans covered his desk. The curtains were drawn tight, making the room feel like a cave. "Kevin, didn't you hear me knocking?" He glanced at her for a second, then looked back at the screen. "I'm busy right now." "Busy watching movies?" "It's not just a movie. It's a documentary about—" He waved his hand vaguely at the screen where 2 cars were crashing into each other. Lisa felt something snap inside her. All the months of frustration, all the missed opportunities, all the times she had bitten her tongue and said nothing. It all came rushing to the surface. She walked over to the television and turned it off. "Hey, I was watching that." "Grandma Betty is in the hospital," Lisa said, her voice steady but firm. "It's her birthday today, and the whole family is going to visit her. Mom has been trying to call you all morning." Kevin sat up slowly, running his hands through his messy hair. "Oh, I didn't know." "You didn't know because you never answer your phone. You didn't know because you never leave this room. You didn't know because you've completely checked out of this family. That's not fair. I've been dealing with some stuff. We're all dealing with stuff. Kevin, but we still show up for each other." Lisa looked around the messy room, at her brother who looked like he hadn't seen sunlight in days, at the pile of responsibilities she had been carrying alone. She realized that being patient and understanding wasn't helping him anymore. It was just enabling him to stay stuck. She pulled off her work jacket and threw it on his chair. She had left an important client meeting for this conversation. She had rearranged her entire day again to deal with a family crisis that shouldn't have been a crisis at all. "This stops today," she said, looking directly at him. "I'm not covering for you anymore. I'm not making excuses for you anymore. And I'm not watching you disappear while the people who love you are worried sick. Kevin started to say something, but Lisa held up her hand. Grandma Betty asked about you specifically. She wanted to make sure you'd be there tonight. She's 85 years old, Kevin. How many more birthdays do you think she's going to have? The room fell silent. Outside, Lisa could hear cars driving by, people going about their normal lives. Inside this dark room, time seemed to have stopped months ago. Kevin looked down at his hands. For the first time in a long time, he seemed to really see what was happening around him. The mess, the isolation, the way his sister was standing there still wearing her work clothes because she had dropped everything to deal with this situation. I didn't realize, he started to say. That's the problem, Lisa interrupted. You haven't been realizing anything lately. You've been hiding in here while the rest of us figure everything out. She sat down on the edge of his bed, her anger softening into something more like sadness. I love you, Kevin, we all do. But love doesn't mean letting someone disappear without a fight. The conversation that followed would change everything between them. But for now, in this moment, it was just two siblings in a messy room, finally being honest about what had been broken for too long. Kevin's face turned red as he jumped up from his bed. The comfortable distance he had kept from reality for months was suddenly gone, and he didn't like how it felt. You think you know everything, don't you? He shouted, his voice cracking slightly. You walk in here with your perfect job and your perfect life, telling me what I should be doing. Lisa stepped back, surprised by the sudden outburst. She had expected him to be defensive, but this was different. This was anger she hadn't seen from her quiet brother in years. You have no idea what I've been going through, Kevin continued, pacing around the small room like a caged animal. Every day I wake up and feel like I'm drowning. Every phone call feels impossible. Every time someone asks me to do something, it's like they're asking me to climb a mountain. So you just stopped trying? Lisa asked, trying to keep her voice calm even though her heart was racing. I didn't stop trying. I stopped failing in front of everyone. The words hung in the air between them. Kevin looked shocked that he had said them out loud. Lisa felt like she was seeing her brother clearly for the first time in months. What do you mean? She asked softly, but Kevin wasn't ready to explain. The anger was still burning inside him, fueled by months of feeling trapped and misunderstood. You want to know why I missed the wedding? Because I spent 2 hours sitting in my car outside the church trying to force myself to walk inside. 2 hours, Lisa. I couldn't even get out of the car. He grabbed an empty soda can from his desk and threw it across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. You want to know why I don't answer Mom's calls? Because every time she asks how I'm doing, I have to lie. And I'm tired of lying. I'm tired of pretending everything is fine when nothing is fine. Lisa watched her brother fall apart in front of her. All those months she had thought he was being lazy or irresponsible. He had been fighting a battle she couldn't see. And you, Kevin said, pointing at her. You make it look so easy. Perfect grades, perfect job, perfect daughter. Do you know how hard it is to be the brother who can't even leave his room? Kevin, I never said you had to be perfect. You don't have to say it. It's written all over your face every time you look at me. Disappointment. Like I'm this project you can't fix. The accusation hit Lisa harder than she expected. She thought about all the times she had felt frustrated with Kevin, all the times she had wondered why he couldn't just pull himself together like everyone else. That's not true, she said. But even as the words left her mouth, she wondered if it was. Isn't it? You came in here ready to lecture me about responsibility. You turned off my TV like I was a child. You threw your jacket down like some dramatic gesture to show me how much you've sacrificed. Lisa looked at her jacket on the chair. Had she really been that dramatic? Had she been treating him like a child instead of trying to understand what was wrong? I left work early because I was worried about you, she said. No, you left work early because you were embarrassed by me. Because you couldn't stand the thought of having to explain to Mom why I wasn't at the hospital again. The words stung because there was truth in them. Lisa had been embarrassed. She had been tired of making excuses for Kevin's behavior. Fine, she said, her own anger flaring up. Maybe I have been frustrated. Maybe I have been disappointed, but at least I've been here. Kevin, at least I've been trying to hold this family together while you disappeared. I never asked you to do that. Someone had to. They stared at each other across the messy room, both breathing hard, both hurt and angry and confused. You think I don't know what I've put everyone through? Kevin asked, his voice quieter now. You think I don't see how Mom worries? How Dad tries to pretend everything is normal? How you pick up all the pieces I leave behind? Lisa didn't answer. She could see tears in her brother's eyes, and it scared her. I know exactly what I've done, Kevin continued, and knowing makes it worse. Because every time I try to fix it, I mess up something else. So I stopped trying to fix it. I stopped trying to be the person everyone wanted me to be. Nobody wanted you to be anyone except yourself. Myself wasn't good enough. The simple sentence broke Lisa's heart. She realized that while she had been frustrated with Kevin for giving up, he had been drowning in the feeling that nothing he did mattered. Kevin, but he wasn't finished. Months of isolation and self-doubt came pouring out all at once. Do you know what it's like to be afraid of your own family? To love people so much that disappointing them feels like dying? I stayed in this room because it was the only place where I couldn't let anyone down. Lisa sat down heavily on his bed, the fight going out of her. She had been so focused on Kevin's actions that she had never considered what might be driving them. I thought you just didn't care, she admitted. I cared too much. That was the problem. The room felt different now, like the air itself had changed. Kevin sat down at his desk, exhausted from the emotional explosion. Lisa stayed on the bed, trying to process everything she had just heard. When did this start? She asked gently. Kevin was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. Remember when I graduated college? Everyone kept asking what I was going to do next, like I was supposed to have this amazing plan. Lisa nodded. She remembered that time. Kevin had seemed excited about finishing school. I applied for probably 50 jobs. 50, Lisa. I wrote cover letters and practiced interview questions and researched companies until my eyes hurt. And you know how many interviews I got? How many? Three interviews in 6 months. And I bombed all of them. Kevin's voice was so quiet that Lisa had to lean forward to hear him. The last one was the worst. It was for this entry-level position at a tech company. Nothing fancy, just basic customer service. I prepared for weeks. I bought a new shirt. I practiced my answers in the mirror. He paused, lost in the memory. The interview lasted maybe 10 minutes. The guy looked at my resume, asked a few questions, and I could tell he had already decided I wasn't right for the job. He was just going through the motions. Lisa wanted to say something encouraging, but she could tell Kevin needed to get this out. I sat in my car afterward and cried. Like actually cried, Lisa. I felt so stupid and useless. Here I was, a college graduate, and I couldn't even get a job answering phones. That doesn't mean you're useless. Tell that to my bank account. Tell that to Mom when she asks why I'm not working. Tell that to Dad when he has to explain to his friends why his son is still living at home. Kevin got up and walked to his window, pulling the curtain back slightly. A thin stream of sunlight cut across the dark room. After that interview, I just started avoiding things. First it was job applications. Then it was social events. Then family dinners. Each time I avoided something, it got a little easier to avoid the next thing. Lisa was starting to understand. It became a habit. It became a way of life. And the longer I stayed in here, the harder it became to imagine going back out there. Kevin let the curtain fall closed again, returning the room to its dim lighting. But the worst part wasn't the isolation. It was watching you pick up all my slack. Every time Mom needed help and you showed up instead of me, I felt like garbage. Every time there was a family event and you had to cover for my absence, I wanted to disappear completely. Then why didn't you just come out? Why didn't you just show up? Because I was scared that if I tried and failed again, it would prove that I really was as worthless as I felt. At least hiding in here, I could pretend that maybe someday I might be able to be the person everyone wanted me to be. Lisa felt tears in her own eyes now. She had been so focused on Kevin's impact on the family that she had never considered the impact it was having on him. You're not worthless, Kevin. Tell that to the voice in my head that never shuts up. Tell that to the anxiety that makes my chest tight every time I think about leaving this room. Tell that to the depression that makes everything feel impossible. The words hung in the air. Depression, anxiety. Kevin had never used those words before, but Lisa realized they explained so much about his behavior over the past months. Have you talked to anyone about this? Like a doctor or counselor? Kevin laughed, but there was no humor in it. And tell them what? That I'm a grown man who's afraid to answer the phone? That I can't handle basic adult responsibilities? That I'm disappointing everyone I care about? You could tell them that you're struggling and need help. Help costs money. And I don't have a job, remember? Lisa realized how trapped Kevin must have felt. Too anxious to look for work, too broke to get help, too ashamed to ask for support. Kevin, there are free resources. Community centers, support groups, sliding scale therapy. I know. I've researched all of it. I've made lists and bookmarked websites and even filled out intake forms. But when it comes time to actually make the call or show up to an appointment, I freeze. Lisa understood now why Kevin had exploded when she confronted him. It wasn't that he didn't want to change. It was that he had been trying to change and failing over and over again, until the effort itself became overwhelming. "What about today?" she asked. "What about visiting Grandma Betty?" Kevin was quiet for a moment. "I want to see her." "I really do. She's always been special to me. But the thought of walking into that hospital with all the family there, everyone asking how I'm doing..." He shuddered. "What if we went together? What if I stayed with you the whole time?" Kevin looked at his sister with surprise. "You would do that?" "Of course I would." "Kevin, I'm not angry at you anymore. I'm worried about you. There's a difference." For the first time in months, Kevin smiled slightly. "I've missed talking to someone who actually listens. I've missed talking to my brother." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both processing everything that had been said. The room still looked the same, but something fundamental had shifted between them. Lisa looked around Kevin's room with new eyes. What she had seen as laziness and mess now looked different. The closed curtains weren't about being difficult. They were about creating a safe space. The empty food containers weren't about being careless. They were evidence of someone who had been too anxious to leave their room for regular meals. "Kevin, can I ask you something?" she said, settling more comfortably on his bed. "Sure. When you were little, remember how you used to build those amazing blanket forts? You'd spend hours making them perfect with different rooms and secret entrances." A small smile crossed Kevin's face. "I loved those forts. I felt like I could control everything inside them. Is this room kind of like that now? Like a fort where everything feels controllable?" Kevin was quiet for a moment, considering her words. "Yeah, I guess it is. Out there, everything feels unpredictable and scary. In here, I know what to expect." Lisa nodded, beginning to understand. "But forts are supposed to be temporary, right? You used to come out for dinner and school and to play with friends. That was different. I was a kid then. I didn't have real responsibilities or real consequences for messing up. Kevin, what do you think would happen if you came with me to see Grandma Betty today?" Kevin's shoulders tensed up immediately. "I don't know. Everyone would look at me and wonder where I've been. Mom would probably cry and make a big deal about how glad she is to see me. Dad would do that thing where he pats my shoulder and doesn't know what to say. And Grandma Betty..." His voice trailed off. "What about Grandma Betty? She'll just be happy to see me. That's the worst part. She won't be angry or disappointed. She'll just hug me and tell me she missed me, and I'll feel terrible for staying away so long." Lisa felt her heart break a little more. Kevin wasn't avoiding family because he didn't care about them. He was avoiding them because he cared too much and couldn't handle disappointing them. "What if I told everyone ahead of time that you're going through a rough patch? What if I explained that you've been struggling with some personal stuff, so they know not to make a big fuss?" "You would do that?" "Of course. Kevin, I used to think you were just being selfish, but now I see that you're actually being too hard on yourself. You've been carrying around this guilt and shame for months, and it's eating you alive." Kevin sat down next to her on the bed. For the first time since she had entered his room, he looked directly at her. "Lisa, I want to get better. I really do. But I don't know how. Every time I try to take a step forward, my brain starts listing all the ways I could mess up. It's like having a really mean roommate in my head who never shuts up." "What does the mean roommate say?" "Things like, 'You're going to embarrass yourself,' or 'Everyone will see what a failure you are,' or 'Why even bother trying when you know you'll just quit anyway?'" Lisa had never heard Kevin describe his thoughts this way, but it made so much sense. "That sounds exhausting." "It is. It's like running a marathon every day, except the marathon is just getting out of bed and brushing my teeth." "Kevin, I think that mean roommate in your head is lying to you. I think it's telling you things that aren't true to keep you trapped in here." "Maybe, but what if it's not lying? What if I really am as hopeless as I feel?" Lisa thought carefully about her answer. She realized that simply telling Kevin he was wrong wouldn't help. He needed something more concrete. "Remember when we were kids and you taught me how to ride a bike?" she asked. "Yeah. You were so scared of falling. I was terrified. And you know what you told me?" Kevin shook his head. "You said that falling was part of learning. You said that every time I fell down and got back up, I was actually getting stronger and better at balancing. You said the goal wasn't to never fall. It was to get comfortable with getting back up." Kevin was quiet, processing her words. I think maybe you forgot your own advice, Lisa continued. You've been so afraid of falling that you stopped trying to ride the bike at all. But what if I keep falling? What if I get back up and just fall again? Then you'll get back up again. And again, until falling doesn't scare you anymore. Kevin leaned back against the wall, looking exhausted but somehow lighter than he had when their conversation started. It sounds so simple when you put it like that. The simple things are usually the hardest, Lisa said. But Kevin, you don't have to do this alone. I'm sorry I didn't realize how much you were struggling. I was so focused on the effect your behavior was having on everyone, else that I never stopped to think about what might be causing it. Should have said something sooner. Maybe. But I should have asked better questions. Instead of asking why you weren't doing things, I should have asked how you were feeling. They sat together in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Outside Kevin's room, Lisa could hear the sounds of normal life continuing. Cars driving by, neighbors talking, the world moving forward. But inside this room, time felt different, slower and more thoughtful. Lisa, Kevin said finally, if we go to the hospital today, will you really stay with me the whole time? Absolutely. And if you need to leave early, we'll leave early. If you need to take a break and step outside, we'll do that too. Think of me as your backup plan. What if I have a panic attack or something embarrassing happens? Then we'll deal with it together. Kevin, the people in our family love you. They're not going to judge you for having a hard time. How can you be so sure? Because when I was going through my divorce 2 years ago, remember how the family rallied around me? Nobody judged me for making mistakes. They just wanted to help. Kevin had forgotten about Lisa's difficult divorce. She had seemed so strong throughout the whole thing that he never considered she might have been struggling too. You made that look so easy. It wasn't easy at all. I cried in my car after work most days for about 3 months. But I kept showing up because I knew that isolating myself would make everything worse. And you know what? It did get easier little by little. So you think if I start showing up again, it'll get easier for me too? I think it's worth trying. And I think Grandma Betty would be the perfect place to start. She's always been your biggest fan. Kevin smiled, remembering all the times Grandma Betty had bragged about him to her friends, even when he felt like he had nothing to brag about. Okay, he said quietly. Let's go see Grandma Betty. The first step out of Kevin's room felt monumental. Lisa watched as her brother stood in the hallway, blinking in the brighter light like someone who had been underground for months. It's weird being out here, Kevin said, looking around at the familiar hallway as if seeing it for the first time. Good weird or bad weird? Lisa asked. Both, I guess. Everything looks the same, but I feel different. They walked downstairs together and Lisa could see Kevin's anxiety starting to build as they got closer to leaving the house. His breathing got a little faster, and his hands started fidgeting with his shirt. Kevin, remember what we talked about? We're just going to take this one step at a time. What if Mom asks a bunch of questions about where I've been? I already texted her while you were getting dressed. I told her you've been going through a rough patch, but that you're working on feeling better. I asked her to keep things low-key today. Kevin looked surprised. You really did that? Of course. We're a team now, remember? The drive to the hospital was quiet, but not the uncomfortable kind of quiet that had been between them for months. This was the kind of quiet that comes when two people understand each other. About halfway there, Kevin spoke up. Lisa, what if this doesn't work? What if I try to get better and I just end up back in my room in a few weeks? Then we'll figure out what went wrong and try a different approach. Kevin, getting better isn't a straight line. It's more like climbing a mountain with lots of switchbacks. Sometimes you have to go sideways or even backward a little bit to find the right path forward. Where did you learn all this wise stuff? Lisa laughed. Therapy, mostly. After my divorce, I realized I needed help learning how to handle difficult emotions. Best money I ever spent. You went to therapy? For about 8 months. It changed my whole perspective on mental health. I used to think that asking for help was a sign of weakness. Now I think it's one of the bravest things you can do. Kevin was quiet, processing this new information about his sister. Do you think therapy might help me? I think it could. But even if it doesn't, there are lots of other things that might help. Support groups, medication, lifestyle changes. The important thing is that you don't have to figure this out alone. When they pulled into the hospital parking lot, Kevin's anxiety spiked again. I don't know if I can do this, he said, gripping the door handle but not opening it. You don't have to do anything except sit in this car with me right now. Everything else is optional. They sat for a few minutes watching people walk in and out of the hospital, families visiting loved ones, medical workers starting their shifts, ordinary people dealing with life's challenges. "You know what's funny?" Kevin said. "I spent so much time being afraid of people judging me, but look at all these people. They're all just trying to get through their day. They're not thinking about me at all." That's one of the things I learned in therapy, too. Most people are so busy dealing with their own stuff that they don't have time to judge other people as much as we think they do. "Okay," Kevin said, taking a deep breath. "Let's go see Grandma." The hospital elevator ride felt eternal, but when they reached Grandma Betty's floor, Kevin seemed steadier. Lisa stayed close to him as they walked down the hall, ready to support him if he needed it. When they entered the room, the whole family was there. Mom, Dad, and 2 cousins were gathered around Grandma Betty's bed. She was sitting up, wearing a bright pink sweater and looking much healthier than Kevin had expected. "Kevin!" she exclaimed when she saw him, her whole face lighting up. "Oh, honey, I'm so glad you came." Kevin walked over to her bed and she reached up to hug him. He held on a little longer than usual, feeling the warmth and unconditional love that had always made Grandma Betty special. "Happy birthday, Grandma. I'm sorry I haven't been around much lately. Don't you worry about that, sweetheart. You're here now, and that's what matters." The rest of the family greeted Kevin warmly but without making a big fuss, just as Lisa had requested. Dad patted his shoulder and asked how he was doing, but in a gentle way that didn't feel pressuring. Mom hugged him and whispered that she was proud of him for coming. They spent the next hour talking and laughing together. Kevin found himself relaxing as he remembered how much he enjoyed his family's company. These were people who had known him his whole life, who loved him regardless of his struggles. When it was time to leave, Grandma Betty pulled Kevin aside. "Honey, I don't know what you've been going through lately, but I want you to know something. You are loved exactly as you are right now, today. Not the person you think you should be or the person you used to be. The person you are right this minute is enough." Kevin felt tears in his eyes. "Thank you, Grandma. I needed to hear that. And Kevin, if you need help with anything, you ask. That's what family is for." On the drive home, Kevin was quiet again, but this time it was the satisfied quiet of someone who had accomplished something difficult. "How do you feel?" Lisa asked. "Tired, but good tired. Like the kind of tired you get after exercise, not the exhausted tired I've been feeling. That's because you used different muscles today. Emotional muscles that have been out of practice. Lisa, thank you for everything today, but also for not giving up on me. Kevin, I want you to know that I'm going to keep checking on you, but not in a pushy way. More like how Grandma Betty checks on everyone, with love and without judgment." "I'd like that." As they pulled into their driveway, Kevin looked at the house differently than he had that morning. It wasn't just a place to hide anymore. It was home base, a place where he could rest and recharge between ventures into the wider world. "What happens tomorrow?" he asked. "Tomorrow we take another small step. Maybe we call that community mental health center I looked up. Maybe we just sit outside for a little while, whatever feels manageable. And if I have a bad day, then we'll figure out how to make the next day a little better." Kevin, recovery isn't about being perfect. It's about being kind to yourself while you figure things out. As they walked toward the house together, Kevin realized that for the first time in months, he was looking forward to tomorrow. Not because he expected it to be easy, but because he knew he wouldn't be facing it alone.